This time we're looking at Bala Mukunda, a figure from Hindu tradition, specifically a child form of the god Krishna. And it might seem like we're talking about just like a baby god, but these verses are way more interesting than just a cute baby.
Oh yeah, they're full of symbolism and ideas that really connect to the biggest questions about the universe and our place in it.
So maybe we can start off with a little background. Who is Bala Mukunda and why is he important?
Well, the name itself actually tells us a lot. Bala means child, and then Mukunda means giver of liberation. So right away, we have this interesting combination, an innocent child and profound power.
And when we talk about liberation, what does that actually mean in this context?
Well, it refers to moksha, which in Hinduism is the ultimate goal. It's about breaking free from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and ultimately becoming one with the divine.
Okay, so we have a baby god who can grant this ultimate freedom. Seems like a paradox.
It definitely challenges how we usually think of power and divinity.
Yeah, and one of the most striking images from these verses is Bala Mukunda lying on a giant banyan leaf. During the cosmic dissolution?
Yes, that's a very powerful image. The cosmic dissolution, also called pralaya, is when the universe as we know it comes to an end. Everything dissolves back into its original state. But through all of this destruction, Bala Mukunda remains resting peacefully on a banyan leaf.
It's kind of hard to picture the entire universe fitting on a single leaf.
Right. It's really a visual representation of something vast and complex, but contained within something small and simple, and suggests that even when everything else disappears, there's a fundamental reality that remains.
So it's a message of hope, even in the face of destruction.
You could say that, yes. It's a reminder that there's something beyond the cycle of creation and destruction, something eternal.
That's a lot to think about. And these verses aren't all about just cosmic events. They also show Bala Mukunda, engaging in some very down-to-earth activities like stealing butter.
Yeah, and those stories are just as important. They highlight a different side of Bala Mukunda, one that's playful, mischievous, even a little bit naughty.
It's hard to imagine a god stealing butter.
Well, these stories remind us that the divine isn't always distant and serious. It can be playful and relatable, too.
So how should we interpret these stories? Are they just meant to be cute and entertaining?
Well, they are entertaining, for sure, but they also have deeper meanings. For example, Krishna's love for butter is often seen as a metaphor for his love for his devotees. He steals their hearts, just like he steals their butter.
So it's about this relationship between the divine and the devotee.
Exactly. It's about this playful exchange, this back and forth.
And it doesn't stop there, right? This isn't the only playful story about Bala Mukunda. There's also the one where he's tied to a mortar by his mother.
Yes, that's another popular story. His mother, Yashoda, she finds him stealing butter again and tries to restrain him. But even though he's just a baby, he's incredibly strong. He pulls a mortar behind him, and it ends up knocking down 2 trees.
Wait, so even when he's seemingly bound and powerless, he's still capable of doing all these amazing things?
Exactly. It's another reminder that appearances can be deceiving.
And the fact that these trees were actually celestial beings trapped in tree form, what does that tell us?
That even in a simple act, there can be deeper meaning, and that sometimes our limitations are actually opportunities for unexpected liberation.
That's really interesting. It's like these stories are full of these hidden layers.
Exactly. They're meant to be pondered and interpreted on different levels. And we're back digging deeper into Bala Mukunda.
So far, we've seen these verses present him as both this cosmic force and this playful child.
Right. He contains the entire universe, and yet loves to steal butter and play pranks.
It's an interesting mix. It makes me wonder, how do these different sides of Bala Mukunda fit together?
Well, I think it's important to remember that in Hinduism, the divine isn't limited to a single form or personality.
So it's not about picking one side or the other, but embracing the whole.
Exactly. Bala Mukunda is both the powerful god and the relatable child. And through these seemingly contradictory qualities, we can glimpse the vastness and complexity of the divine.
That makes sense. And speaking of complexity, we haven't really talked about Bala Mukunda's heroic side yet. What are some of the stories that show that side of him?
Well, one of the most famous stories is about his encounter with the serpent Kalia.
Oh, yeah, the serpent who poisoned the Yamuna River.
That's right. Kalia was a fearsome creature with venomous breath. He terrorized people and polluted the water, making it dangerous to drink.
And Bala Mukunda, as a young child, decided to confront this serpent.
Yes. He jumped into the river and challenged Kalia to a fight. They wrestled for hours, and eventually Bala Mukunda subdued the serpent and forced him to leave the river.
Wow, that's quite an image. A small child defeating this giant poisonous serpent.
It's a powerful symbol of good conquering evil, but it also represents more than that.
What else does it represent?
Well, on one level, Kalia represents the negative forces that exist within us and around us. Our fears, our anger, our greed, our attachments.
So it's not just an external battle, but also about our own internal struggles.
Exactly. Bala Mukunda's victory over Kalia is a reminder that we have the power to overcome these negative forces within ourselves.
That's a really empowering message. It suggests that even though we face challenges, we're not powerless.
Right. And we don't have to face these battles alone. Just as Bala Mukunda came to the rescue of the people who were suffering because of Kalia, we can call upon a higher power for help and support.
It's interesting that you bring up that point about calling upon a higher power, because in another story, we see Bala Mukunda in a seemingly helpless situation. He's tied to a mortar by his mother.
Ah, yes. And even in that state, he ends up liberating two celestial beings who were trapped in tree form.
So it's another example of how appearances can be deceiving. Even when he seems bound and powerless, he's still capable of amazing things.
Exactly. And it raises some interesting questions about the nature of power itself.
Like, what does it truly mean to be powerful?
Right. Is it about physical strength or control? Or is it about something deeper, something that goes beyond our limited human understanding?
Those are some profound questions. And it seems like these stories are inviting us to explore those questions, not necessarily to come up with definitive answers.
That's right. I think the real value of these stories lies in their ability to spark our curiosity and make us think about things from a different perspective.
And to challenge our assumptions about what we think we know.
Exactly.
So far, we've talked about Bala Mukunda's cosmic power, his playfulness, and his heroism. But there's one more aspect of him that I think is important to touch on.
His relationship with his mother, Yashoda.
Yeah.
It's a central theme in these verses, and it reveals a very tender and loving side of Bala Mukunda.
In one particular verse, we see him gazing at Yashoda with such love and adoration as he drinks milk from her.
Right. It's a beautiful and intimate image, and it speaks to the deep emotional connection that exists between them.
And it highlights that even though he's this divine being, he's also a child who needs love and care.
Exactly. It humanizes him in a way, and it makes him even more relatable.
I think it also speaks to the importance of love and devotion in our own lives, whether it's love for a parent, a child, a partner, or even a higher power. Those connections are what give our lives meaning and purpose.
I agree.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
Mhm.
We've seen Bala Mukunda as the cosmic creator, the playful prankster, the powerful hero, and the loving child. It's really amazing how much depth and complexity these verses about Bala Mukunda have.
It really speaks to how rich these traditions are. They're not just simple stories. They're layered with symbolism and meaning. You can explore them on so many levels.
And it seems like they're meant to be more than just entertainment, right? They're meant to teach us about ourselves and about the world around us.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest lessons we can take away from these stories is that the divine isn't something distant or abstract. It's actually present in every aspect of our lives.
In the vastness of the cosmos, and even in the smallest details of our everyday experiences.
Exactly. And it's accessible to us in so many different ways. Whether you're drawn to the cosmic imagery of Bala Mukunda containing the universe, or the playful stories of him stealing butter, or the heroic tales of him subduing negativity, there's a path for everyone.
And it's not about choosing one path over another, is it? It's about recognizing that all these aspects of Bala Mukunda are part of this greater whole.
That's right. Just as he embodies both power and playfulness, both strength and tenderness, the divine itself is multifaceted and ever-present.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what stands out most to you about these stories of Bala Mukunda?
For me, it's the reminder that even in the middle of chaos and destruction, there's always hope. That image of Bala Mukunda resting peacefully on a banyan leaf during the cosmic dissolution is such a powerful symbol of that enduring hope.
Yeah. And I think it's also a call to action. Just like Bala Mukunda confronted that serpent Kalia and brought balance back to the world, we also have a responsibility to face the negativity in our own lives and in the world around us.
Absolutely. We can all be agents of positive change, and we can all draw inspiration from these stories as we navigate the challenges and opportunities that life presents.
And maybe, just maybe we can even find a little bit of that divine playfulness along the way.
I certainly hope so.
Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of Bala Mukunda. Thanks for joining us on this journey of exploration and discovery.
It's been my pleasure.
And may these stories continue to inspire you and guide you on your own path.